don't know, Tech Collective is the industry association for Rhode Island in the IT and bioscience industries. We work to foster workforce development and industry development to drive company growth and individual growth and the economy forward here in Rhode Island. So we're glad you can join us here today to kind of help us accomplish that mission and to showcase some of the work we've been doing and how we can move forward together to drive this industry. I'd like to just do a few housekeeping notes. One is that the restrooms, if anybody needs them, are just right across the atrium hallway. And while we're having our first report with survey findings and then our panel discussion, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to interject. We'll have an interactive conversation and make it beneficial for everybody. At this time, I'd like to introduce Joe Devine, who is going to make the remarks.
Thanks so much, Giselle. I'm going to look at my notes because I don't trust myself to remember everything I want to say. There's so much we'd like to talk about. First of all, welcome you all here. Thank you so much for coming. We thought about this day years ago. We were hoping we'd have maybe 20, 25 people in the room that really were concerned about this. Obviously, there's a lot more concern, a lot more thought and action going into improve computer science education and jobs in Rhode Island. How's that? Better? I'll speak louder. Thanks. All right, so I want to kind of give you an idea of how we got here. Bridge Technical Talent is an IT staffing firm. We've been based in Rhode Island for 14 years. 6 years ago, we started working with startup companies, and as we were working with those companies, we're really kind of intrigued and of course excited about some of the possibilities when you work with a startup company. They talk about how they're going to grow, their hockey stick type curve growth they're expecting. And we're talking to several of them, 4 or 5 at a time, and they're all talking about needing to have somebody, this right now, I'm going to get a developer right now, usually a pretty special developer, not a regular run-of-the-mill developer, but some special talent. And in a couple of months, we're going to need a second or third, if things go well, we're going to need maybe 10, 15, and if the year after that, who knows how many we'll need. So we're talking to a bunch of these companies, and it's hard to find, in some cases, that 1 or 2 unique individuals they're looking for in Rhode Island. Never mind, what if they do take off? And some of them have, and unfortunately some of them have moved. Some of them have gone up to Boston because they couldn't find the talent they needed here. Some of them have stayed, and not all of them succeeded the way they wanted to, but that kind of got the thought going about what should we be doing about this. So we immediately started looking at where you would look to get. Where do you get more students from? We looked to the colleges. We started talking to the department chairs and the deans of those computer science, computer information systems programs, and we were kind of surprised because our expectation was we're going to hear things like, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough computers, we don't have enough teachers or space. Well, we didn't hear that. We heard we have plenty of teacher space, computers, we just need more students. We have roughly half capacity for where we could be. And that was pretty exciting and also kind of discouraging at the same time. But the exciting part was, well, all we got to do is get the word out, right? So we started working on an awareness program to try to get folks aware of what's going on with opportunities in computer science and try to break some of those myths and some of those maybe barriers that people would traditionally think about. And we went after trying to get more students involved. Women, first of all, 1 out of 4 women are involved, and less than 10% are minority students that are coming into these careers. So we started working on that kind of stuff. But along the way, we thought, wouldn't it be nice to also inform these college programs about what are the needs of the industry? A lot of the programs, all the programs have an academic advisory board. They meet once a year, sometimes twice a year. They have a few folks from industry come in. But we thought, wouldn't it be nice to get a wider and deeper look at what are the technology skills that are needed in Rhode Island, so that some schools can enact those, and some might choose not to, but at least they would know what they were. So at this time, I just want to recognize the folks that we were initially working with are from 7 outstanding schools in our state that have computer science or computer information systems programs. And first we have all 3 of our state schools, CCRI, Rhode Island College, University of Rhode Island working with us. We have Johnson & Wales University, and Roger Williams University, New England Tech, and Bryant University. And that core group has been working together for almost 5 years now. And it's amazing to see what you would think as competitors working for a common goal. And they're kind of leaving behind their individual needs at the door and working on common problems for a shared solution for our state. I just wanted to give a tip of the hat to them at the beginning. While we were working together, we applied for this Governor's Workforce Board grant, and when we did that, we came up with we kind of forced this thing about what would we do if we had money? how do we get more students? What would we do if we had the money? And we worked on this grant, which was intended to get businesses and academia working together. And one of the objectives, one of the things that we fund is this survey. And we thought if we could survey these folks and bring people together after accumulating some data to understand what are the technical skills, and then get the communication channel open between academia and the business in Rhode Island, and find a way to jumpstart that would be a great thing. And that's kind of how we got here today. We're hoping that this is really just the beginning of the data collection. We put this together with a bunch of professionals that I'll mention later when we talk about the report itself. It's not a complete report. Obviously, there's a lot of questions we could have asked. There's a lot of answers that probably weren't even thought about asking at the time. But it's the beginning of the data. And there could be some other avenues where this data will be better collected in the future. And you're going to hear about one of those in a minute. And one of the nice things about the solution you get with Opportunity at Work and the Tech Hire, RI, is instead of us having to ask questions, our employers can go there, post their jobs, post their needs. So instead of us not knowing about what we've got to ask about a particular job or framework, you can tell us what those frameworks are. So that way, the whole state can begin working on that stuff right off the bat. So there's a lot of programs that are happening right now. You probably have all heard about CS4RI, and there's a whole bunch of things that are happening, and I don't want to talk about them because you're going to hear about them in a minute. But the reason we asked these folks to come today to talk to you about those programs is we wanted to make sure that as all these different trains are running down the track in Rhode Island, and everybody's trying to do great things from computer science, education, and jobs, it's like, let's make sure we're all checking in with each other, make sure we're trying to find ways to be opportunistic, to help each other, to avoid areas of conflict, look for areas of synergy, and in general, just try to keep the overall train of computer science, jobs, and education around moving forward. So we're going to have those folks talk in a minute. The way the agenda is going to go today is after they talk, we're going to come back up and we're going to present a brief snippet of the report. And then after that, we're going to have an outstanding panel discussion. We're so excited to have some folks come here from industry, renowned leaders in industry, and from these computer science programs in our academic institutions to get this conversation started. So at this point, please join me in welcoming Jen Hetzel-Silver from Opportunity at Work and Lee Bichette, who is working with Commerce RI and URI.
So can folks in the back hear me if I don't use the mic? Can you hear me okay? Okay, so I tried to juggle a mic and a clicker last week, or it didn't go so well. So we'll go ahead and start this way. So my name is Lee Bichette. I work with Commerce Rhode Island and URI as a senior advisor focused on tech talent and industry development. I wanted to just provide a brief overview of all the existing efforts in the state as kind of a baseline to the deeper dive that Joe and Giselle will present later. But before doing that, I did want to thank our hosts at the Tech Collective. I also wanted to give a special shout out to Joe Devine. For those that don't know Joe, he's been working tirelessly on this topic for years. I met Joe a few years ago, and he just does it with the greatest intentions, a real sincere focus on diversity in tech. And I just think we need more Joe Devines in Rhode Island, so I just want to do a round of applause. And it worked. So to start the conversation, just wanted to make the point that tech talent is not just a challenge in Rhode Island. This is a national issue. Every state and city and metro struggles with this, and this is projected to continue. It's also important to mention that Rhode Island does offer some benefits to employers today. In addition to having access to a wealth of talent both here as well as 7 minutes that way in southern Massachusetts, great mix of universities, we also have some significant cost benefits. It's cheaper to hire here, it's faster to hire here than in many places, and the retention rates are very high. If you think about that bumper sticker with the Rhode Island anchor, well, people don't leave Rhode Island, and once they get a tech job, they often don't leave that job. But still, to that point, the governor and the leadership team recognize that tech talent is still a place where we can better meet the needs of employers today. And we can actually use this as a competitive advantage to attract employers to the state. So in a very short time, this has become a major priority for the governor's office, and they've worked on these initiatives that I'll describe briefly. So starting on the left, it's important to see that this covers the entire spectrum, from the important work at K-12 straight through skilling up our current workforce. Joe mentioned CS4 Rhode Island. This program aims to have computer science in every public school, not every high school, every K-12 school by the end of 2017. This would make Rhode Island the first state to do this. I talk to a lot of employers in my role, and this is critically important to employer decisions around investing in Rhode Island, that long-term talent pipeline. P-TECH is an interesting program. It targets middle school students who might not have college in their future plans. And it gives them an alternative pathway where they can choose a different high school experience that includes a free associate's degree granted by CCRI. And following that, students can go into tech or they can go into higher ed, or further their higher ed. And then Tech Hire, you may be familiar with. This is a White House initiative. It's a national initiative focused on helping people who do not have that traditional bachelor's degree in computer science and help them through the best-in-class training, the best-in-class hiring processes to find a way into tech. But the important thing here is we are not just part of this program. With our friends at Opportunity at Work, we're actually building the national model for Tech Hire right here in Rhode Island. The Real Jobs Rhode Island program is a major funding source and a differentiator for Rhode Island that allows us to do that. And this is actually quite a big deal. You'll hear more about it from Jen as she presents when I hand it off. Many of you will have worked with the partners listed here and know them and work with them on an ongoing basis. The important point is we are working on this initiative in a very collaborative way, and it includes people and organizations that have very diverse perspectives and capabilities, and this is going to be critical to the success of these programs. So, who heard about the news regarding General Electric? Raise your hands. Pretty good coverage. So this is, I've been smiling for 2 days. This is really important. General Electric is bringing hundreds of jobs here. And these aren't back office jobs, these are advanced tech jobs, living at the intersection between computer science, analytics, applied math, engineering. And this happened because of a lot of the efforts underway. So that's why this conversation today is so important. Because we collectively, employers, education, everyone in this ecosystem needs to work together to meet the needs of employers that are here in Rhode Island today and the employers that want to come and create jobs here. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick visual of how this all fits together, and then I'll pass it over to Jen. My background is in software product management, so I can't host a presentation without a flowchart. So this is the flowchart. On the right-hand side, you see the traditional path into tech. K-12, higher ed, into tech. On the left-hand side, you see continuing education, other training aimed at skilling up the current workforce. So this is how traditionally people got into tech in Rhode Island. With CS4 Rhode Island, you see us building that pipeline from K-12, getting students exposed to computer science. It's a major issue, just exposure, getting them interested in it, getting them prepared to succeed in it. And that's going to have more students choose computer science for a career in a higher education pathway. Here you can visualize that alternative pathway that P-TECH provides. So students in middle school now get excited. They can choose a P-TECH high school, get that associate's degree for free, and then either go into tech or go into the bachelor's programs. And then finally, very closely aligned with today's event, we're also working at the question, how do we get more of our college graduates, graduating with tech skills, graduating with analytics skills, with computer science skills and related skills? So this is the focus of today's event. One specific thing that we're working on very actively is creating new minors that are practical, that align with employer needs, and that have an employer capstone so we can create those relationships between employers and those students. Before I pass it to Jen, I wanted to say, if you're interested in that topic, please come and grab my card. I'd love to work with you on that from any perspective of interest. So with that, I'll have Jen tell you how Tech Hire fits in. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone hear me okay? So my name is Jen Hetzel-Silver, and I'm here representing Opportunity at Work, the nonprofit that is facilitating the build-out of Tech Hire nationwide. So to be clear, there are 50 communities nationwide now, more to be announced later this month. And Rhode Island is super special among those 50 communities because we are the only state, the only community out of the 50 that Governor Raimondo stood up and said, you know what, make us your learning lab. This is the place where we put a full team on 3 people full-time on the ground, not to build a program, but to build an ecosystem. And that's where all of this ties together. So one of the first things we do is really understand what's in demand. And so what you see are these arrows pointing down. So all these many different programs in place, we're all about collecting the data, knowing specifically what IT jobs are out there and coming, and what are the concrete skills that are needed to do those jobs superbly well. So imagine a future where not only do we have GE Digital coming to town, but even more companies coming, and this is the place to really see and incubate that talent because the signal is so accurate. It's always relevant, right? And then building on that signal, we build the programs that are hyper-relevant. And this is where we have our tech electives and our launch codes and apprenticeship RI. We have accelerated training programs. We have Year Up. The list goes on and on. It's about creating a system that both connects current programs and helps them to scale their impact in ways that are hyper-relevant to that demand signal I showed you earlier. And we do that because we're working together. We're sharing all of that information across every program. Information is now transparent and accessible like never before. And I'm going to show you in a little bit how we actually gather that data and how any one of you here can help us get more of it so that that signal is even more relevant going forward. 4 pillars upon which everything we do stands, okay? And all 4 of these pillars are connected to our #1 goal, which is to place 2,000, not more, Rhode Islanders into in-demand tech jobs in the next 5 years. And we know that not a single program or institution can do that single-handedly, right? That we really have to build an ecosystem to do that together. So first pillar, employer engagement. We want to know what skills you have in demand, and we want to help you accelerate your hiring channels so that you can hire quickly and with superb talent matching. Second pillar, job seekers. We believe that mastery trumps pedigree. We believe that there are many pathways, conventional and unconventional, to getting people these meaningful jobs, and that we need to create more net new talent. So we're not always having to poach as a way of finding new talent to fill our jobs. So that's where we say, if you can do the job, if you can prove you can do the job, you can get the job. We'll help you get that job. That mastery trumps pedigree. And we're helping screen in versus screen out the hiring process. Third pillar, education. And this is where Lee hinted on the CS, the work we're doing with higher ed and so forth. We are scanning the country high and low, in addition to the education programs we already have in Rhode Island, to look for best-in-class boot camps, certification programs. What are those alternative methods that are working? And more importantly, how are they vetting and assessing talent to ensure that the right talent gets fit with our employers? So it's not just about including more people into this pipeline to grow that net new talent, but ensuring it's top-notch. And lastly, funding. That's where we work with our state and local partners, government agencies, to make sure the incentives for talent retention are all tied together. You may have heard of Wavemaker Fellowship for encouraging students to stay in state if they get employed and accept a position in Rhode Island. There's other incentives to our employers who hire locally as well. We need to make sure that all of these many moving parts are all sewn together. And the first step to getting that is starting here. And it's techhireri.org. This is a new platform, just launched last month. And if you start anywhere, if you remember anything from this, what I have to say this morning, remember this website. The more employers, and by employers I also mean our higher ed institutions who we know are hiring for tech positions, the more that go to this platform and tell us what specific job categories do exist in your organization. And then, depending on which job category you select, we would like to know, A, does it require a 4-year credential or not? It helps to understand what those hiring practices are. And second, we'd like to know what specific IT skills are needed for each of those occupational categories. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete, and here's what you get when it's done. A dashboard. This dashboard, again, information, open market, available to everyone. Real-time updates all year long. And in fact, over time, we're going to have dashboards even more customized by education partner, by employer, and so forth. So here's what we know today, okay? Of the 1,722 jobs that Burning Glass tells us are in Rhode Island currently, we've heard about 370 of them. In other words, that's from the employers, the 166 employers that have signed on and are working with us through our many partners, Tech Collective and beyond, okay? So in other words, about 21% of the data, we know where those jobs are. Our goal is to get that 21% as close as possible to 100%, so that all those skills, those top skills requested by employers that you see on the far right, are hyper-relevant and accurate, so that all of our higher ed institutions continue to align concretely, hyper-relevant to what our employers want and need to hire locally. And those boot camps and other training programs that we're bringing to Rhode Island that otherwise wouldn't have noticed us, by the way, had we not had so much tech talent pipeline being as robust as it is here, that'll be more relevant too. But it takes engagement from all of you and spreading the word of how important it is. Go to that platform, send your bat signal, and then help us help the whole ecosystem grow together. One quick example of that, how it's all tying together. Many of you may have heard this story. It's been in the news. Mozart. Mozart graduated from Ace Academy. He even went to Steambox after school. Great computer science focus. He tried out Wentworth Institute, but he couldn't afford it, so he ended up dropping out his first year. Also got lucky with an internship from Google, but that was fleeting. Come January this past year, he meets up with Real Jobs Rhode Island partner, LaunchCode, who happens to be right across the street from where we are today. And they vet him and assess him and help him with his resume skills. In less than a month, Mozart was matched to Kensen Media up in Northern Rhode Island and got matched for the job. So had he not been matched, Mozart would have been placed in all host of programs with all of our partners for remedial training, supports, you name it. This is what it's all about. Finding conventional talent, conventional pathways in higher ed, as well as those less conventional ones in ways that create more net new talent. We have a host of employers, over 160 and growing, that are working with Year Up, Tech Collective, Apprenticeship RI, and LaunchCode. This list grows by the day, literally. In fact, I need to get GE up there soon. And how you can help. Employers, send your bat signal. And remember, when I say employer, that means anyone who hires IT, regardless of what type of industry or organization you work in. Review applicants. Be willing to consider applicants trained and assessed by our partners, okay? Be willing to engage in conversations and advise. So for example, in a few weeks, we're hosting a design sprint because we've got our platform up and running. It's version 1, and we know version 2 can be much better, but we don't know what we don't know. Help us co-create the ideal platform of the future. I mean, even imagine, right? Everyone uses Lyft or Uber, and you know how good it feels when you see that little car coming your way because you know. Imagine what it's going to look like when you see that job seeker, that student coming your way with the talent you know are going to be matched for you. That's the platform and what's coming. Provide coaching, and of course, leverage the Commerce Corp incentives for more that are out there. Education and training partners continue to align with the data that's out there, and we're giving you, you're going to hear more about that today, and more that's coming with our dashboard. Explore new models of learning and learning software and analytic skills, and in ways that are more accelerated. Let's connect our students and alumni to new job search and placement resources. We've got lots of them. We want to work with you on that. And lastly, be sure to tell your seniors and alumni about the Rhode Island's Wavemaker Fellowship Program, so that anyone who stays in Rhode Island has an incentive, financially and otherwise, to keep work here. So that about wraps it up for me. I'm going to turn it back over to Giselle. Keep that back signal going in ways that everybody wins. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to continue the conversation. And thank you very much for coming today. I'm a mom of 2 kids. This stuff matters to me because we want to make Rhode Island a place where education and employability really thrive. Thank you very much for your commitment to this work.
All right, so at this point, we're going to do a quick review, and I do mean quick. We're not going to do the whole report. Hopefully, you guys will pick up a copy of it. Unfortunately, there may not be enough for everybody here today. We definitely expect this many folks coming. Very appreciative that you did. We'll print more. It's going to be available on the Tech Collective and the Bridge website as well. All right, so I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of the report, and then Giselle's going to go through our recommendations. First thing I want to mention is the folks who helped put this thing together initially, back when we were working with the colleges, and then we decided to do this survey. We needed to find some IT professionals that were willing to put some time in outside of their jobs, their everyday, 50, 60-hour-a-week type grind jobs, to kind of help us define what should we be doing. And just quickly take through that process, we pulled a team together, and I'm going to mention some of them, I'll recognize them in a moment, but we went out, we did some early conversations, and we met with CIOs and directors of technology to kind of understand what was going on in their world, to kind of inform what we wanted to find. And the most surprising thing for me, as we met with these folks, was that our focus had been technology. My experience in manufacturing and electronic manufacturing before getting into IT, I was used to every year updating our tech track. Every year we take a look at it. What are we doing? What's our competition doing? Where's the industry headed? How do we make sure that our design skills and our manufacturing and testing skills were keeping pace with the industry? So we want to do the same thing for IT in Rhode Island. How do we make sure that the skills that are needed today and in the future will be represented by the graduates? The more people we talked to, not that that wasn't important, but equally important, we found workforce readiness skills to be just as important and lacking for a lot of people. That was probably my biggest takeaway. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But so the folks who helped us so much from the beginning, some of them are here and some of them unfortunately were not able to be here today, but from UNFI, Tony Costantino was a big help on the tech side all the way around. Ryan Boder, who's not here from Newark, helped us out a lot. Ernie Gaines from Brave River, also not able to be here today, but a big supporter of Tech Collective and helped us out a lot. Henry Hodge from HCH Enterprises did a lot with information security for us. Matt Zanny also did a lot of work with us, most recently with Clarity Software. Pete Bichette helped us as well with a lot of work, and Chris Shoemaker as well at the end, writing our report. But the person who really, and I'm probably forgetting a few people, but the person who really helped us, helped me the most, right from the beginning, helped recruit half of our team of people I just mentioned, help keep people positive, energized, help pull people together on some of those hot summer days we were working on this project was Lisa Duda from Schneider. And I would definitely recognize her as, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, so thank you so much. And having said that, the other big thank you has to go to Tech Collective. This group that we just talked about, well-intentioned folks trying to put this thing together, working hard to make it happen, but really, for-profit businesses, and this wasn't our primary objective. This wasn't our, we wake up in the morning and let's get this done first. Until we really partnered with the Tech Collective, and in particular Giselle, and later Amanda, who's not able to be here today either. We would not be here today if we hadn't met with them about a year or so ago. And from where we were to get here today in about a year is amazing, and we really, really appreciate that help and support. All right, so enough of that. Wanted to make sure that we're not going to go through this page by page. If you look at the next slide, I'm sorry, I don't have a controller. Okay, so these are the travel areas we're going to talk about. Demographics, what are some of the hiring practices? We really want to see what are people doing to recruit these entry-level IT professionals. Spend a little bit of time on workforce readiness, a small chunk of technology hiring, and then Giselle will do their recommendations. All right, so with the demographics, we were very pleased with the response. We sent out a lot of requests for this, but we got over 70 back. And you can see from this graph, there's a nice distribution of industries that are represented. There's a great distribution by size as well. Roughly half of the 70 respondents were companies with under 100, and about half were over 100 employees. And you can pick any arbitrary number, but that's a pretty good size to show. We've got small business represented, and we got some of our enterprise businesses as well. The other thing that I really liked about this was when we think about IT, and in particular when we speak to students and educators and parents about trying to encourage them to get their students or their children into IT, we talk about this being across the spectrum. Almost every company has an IT need, and it's not just IT companies. So the results of having, the respondents rather, being in both IT companies as well as about 3/4 not in IT companies, but companies that need IT to grow their business and to be competitive in their marketplaces. It was really nice to see we got a nice mix. That's about a good fair mix of how the companies really are out there. And you can see all these different industries. So hiring practices. Let's see if I keep moving my nose, I'm sure I catch everything I want to say here. So recruiting, we said that the way that companies recruit, the methods that they use, on campus is still the number one thing. Actually being there for interviews or using on campus career service type offices is clearly, well and away, the number one way that folks are doing that. But also things like job sites, online job sites, and word of mouth are the next two biggest things that were chosen. Surprisingly, that word of mouth is still that important in this day and age, but just goes to show. But the fact that these folks are still looking primarily at colleges, but not just at colleges, in terms of education, four-year degrees were important, but they weren't critical. They were pretty much the number one choice, but there was many other alternatives that were picked as well, including 2-year degrees and minors and other non-traditional paths that you heard about a few minutes ago. And when we asked the question, we allowed folks to pick as many choices as they wanted because they had different jobs, different entry-level jobs. Some might require a 4-year degree and some don't. And I'm thinking off the top of my head, it was probably like 52 or 55% or so of the opportunities don't require a 4-year IT education. So that opens up an enormous opportunity for some of these non-traditional pathways, as well as what Lisa was talking about, getting CS or CIS minors in more hands of graduating students. We hear so much today about the value or the ROI of a college education. There's a good case to be made if you take any degree and you add a CS or CIS minor to it. That's a lot more valuable because there's going to be a need for that student when they get out right away. So we wanted to really focus on that, and Lee mentioned he's available. He's trying to put a program together in the state with URI and other schools to really intentionally build more of these minor programs. Talking about internships, I do want to refer back to my numbers here. Only 11 employers out of the 70 said that internships was a primary way that they pick they use for recruiting their IT entry-level employees. But in a separate question, 33 companies said that they have internships, and 22 of them also hire entry-level employees. And I will tell you anecdotally, talking to companies, this is an important area for companies to assess students, for students to assess the environment that they may or may not be working in when they graduate. And we would definitely encourage more of these programs, internship programs. They take resources. Clearly, we do internships at Brown and Gridge, and it definitely takes resources. It takes time and commitment because those folks need to be fed. They need to be watered and fertilized, and they need something every day. But if you can afford that, you'll be able to recruit your student right off the bat. Unfortunately, there were some companies that don't hire for entry level, at the entry level. The number one reason far and away was that their jobs require previous experience, and that's what you would expect. But also, if you dig deeper and you look at some of the other answers to that question, when you get to that section of the report, you'll see that there's a lot of things around budget and around resources. And similar to an internship, an entry-level employee needs that care and feeding. They don't have, in all cases, the workforce readiness skills that they need. They need to be developed before they can really be contributing to their team. And there's probably very little we can do about that except to recognize that maybe if we can get some more of these workforce readiness skills built in, then maybe we would find more companies hiring them coming out of school. All right, so jumping right to workforce readiness skills. Again, this was an area that surprised me when I was working on the pre-survey with some of our CIOs and directors, and what came out of the survey maybe wasn't so surprising when you start thinking about the workforce readiness skills. The top two, far and away, were these two up here: problem solving, critical thinking, and being able to work as part of a team and being able to communicate with your coworkers. Far and away, the two biggest responses. If you think about number one, I think we can probably all agree that if somebody's going through a CS or CIS program, they're probably getting plenty of critical thinking and plenty of problem-solving skill development during that program. I don't think we have to focus too much more on that particular area. But in terms of teamwork and ability to communicate with employers, there's definitely an opportunity to grow the amount of attention that we pay to this area. And I want to go back to an earlier comment I made about talking to these hiring people, the directors and so forth. They were adamant that if they would be willing to give up some technical depth, they'd be willing to give up some of the technical knowledge if they could get these teamwork skills and some of these communication skills in their students so they can hit the workforce running at a better pace. There are some great things that are already going on. I just want to highlight a couple of examples just as an element of, here's something happening so we can maybe learn from what we've already seen and maybe take that, use it, or grow on it in some other places. But New England Tech, a few years ago, they received a grant from the Davis Foundation. And basically what this grant allowed them to do was, on a class-by-class basis, they intentionally went into their curriculum. they took a look at what is the content that we're trying to communicate to these students. And they found a way to engage with students outside of the classroom to kind of get them to engage in some of the content learning on their own for about 10 to 15% of the content they were trying to communicate. Then they used that extra time in classes, in classroom experiences, to build teams to encourage more project work and some intentional project work and communication work to build those workforce skills. They also took the teachers, professors separately, and they worked with them in a seminar type environment to understand better how to engage with these folks. And the bottom line here, let's see if I can, the overarching goal was content's important, but student learning is more important. And the development of these skills, being intentional in the curriculum, has shown success there. And that may be an example that we could all learn from. And by the way, I also want to give a shout out to New England Tech, as I mentioned this, for videotaping us today. Appreciate you guys bringing those resources here so we can have this available for other folks later. So the other thing about these skills, we don't have to wait until folks get to college before we start talking about them and working on them. And in fact, some students won't go to college, right? There's going to be lots of other pathways, and it's important that everybody understands workforce readiness skills. And I work with an organization called PASA, the Providence After School Alliance. They have been intentionally working with their middle school students and their high school students in after school and summer programs. And their whole objective is to be this funnel that allows programs to be delivered and content to be delivered to students, not just in computer science, and not just STEM, but in the arts and in sciences, athletics, there's all kinds of things. But all of those different programs have a couple of key features that are important. First of all, they provide a lot of structure and security for the parents and the students who are in these programs. But every student gets assessed with an assessment program which assesses them on 5 of these workforce readiness skills. 2 of them are the ones that we find most important, and 3 others. And they're doing this at the beginning and the end of programs, and they are seeing definite improvement in these workforce readiness skills. So whether these students go on to college or whether they go right into the workforce, they're going to be better prepared. We've got to find a way to be more intentional in our K-12 programs, both in school, after school, and summertime. But trying to find a way to build these skills into those students. So it's not going to be any one area's burden. It should be the college's burden, it should be the workforce burden, it's the parents' burden. It should be everybody's kind of build it together. All right, so I'm just going to take a second on this graph. You can find this in your report as well. This came right out of the report. So we looked at, technically, going back to the original reason for this report, it was to try to dive deep, find out what are the technical skills that are needed in our industry to make sure that the colleges that were preparing their students directly for jobs could get this data, and the schools that maybe aren't preparing them directly to use a certain technology could be informed about, well, this, if we have to make a choice between what technology to use, maybe we'll pick one that's in demand, as well as providing algorithmic thinking and computational thinking that they're trying to communicate to their computer scientists. So one of the questions we asked in all 6 of these domains, and you can see what they are, one of the questions was, are you hiring now or in the future? And what this graph is trying to show is the red answers, we need people right now. We have job openings today. And moving across to 1 to 2 years or 2 to 5 years, or no. There was an answer for no as well. And when you look at this, you see, well, they're all doing some hiring. I think there were 17 companies that were hiring in more than one of these 2 domains, which is amazing. But we're going to talk only about 2 of these and just give you a brief idea about 2 of these. We're going to pick the 2 that are doing the most hiring now. You can see app dev and service desk are the 2 areas that are clearly looking for more folks today. Again, we're just going to dive in really shallow and take a look at what some of these 2 areas are talking about. There's a lot more data in the report. We're also going to release a compilation of every question and every answer, so you'll be able to see all of the data, which will be available on our websites again. But they're not in we didn't write it in there. It was, I think, 50 questions. We didn't want to bog down the report. But even in the report, there's a ton of information. All right, so app dev. This goes back to the original genesis for the survey. We were looking for programmers. We couldn't find enough developers. This is the one area, when you look at those 1 million jobs that are needed, a big swath of those are developers, programmers. So this is a really important slide. When we looked at the general skills, of course, understanding particular languages is important to it, as you would expect. Knowing certain stacks are important. Knowing particular tools are, of course, important. But the thing that can really set people apart, we found out, was the ability to read and write technical specifications. And that maybe isn't something that was so intuitive. So for any of you with young aspiring programmers or that have curriculum programs, this might be an area that could give them a leg up if they're able to read and write these technical specifications. Talking about specific skills, as you would expect, the Microsoft and Java stacks were the two of the biggest stacks that were out there. You can take a look at the report to see all the specific skills that within those stacks. But also mobile, web front end, scripting, also decent needs in terms of what's being looked for out there. Those kind of skills, if they have those scripting skills, will definitely make the candidate more appealing to businesses. And finally, service desk. So 34% of the companies, about a third of the companies said they have a service desk. We also see this as a definite area where a lot of companies hire at entry level. They're looking for folks that come on board. They're going to do break fix work. They're going to do help desk work. They're going to maybe go out and meet with people that are users of technology, help them with problems from whatever, from broken mouse to bigger and more complex issues. There's a tiering system for most companies where they come in at a low level and they slowly move up the chain to various levels of responsibility. Some of the specific things that they're looking for, operating systems, being able to use backup and restore devices, and some of the other ones that are important to those folks as well. But for the person that's not a developer, that has gone through an information systems type of degree, computer science program, that isn't really sure where they want to take their career, this is a nice place to start because they get exposure to lots of different skills and they'll be able to kind of then map out where they want to take their career. All right, so before we go to recommendations, any questions or any thoughts? Just go right to recommendations.
So, in creating the recommendations, our findings are not really that new. We all know we need technical skill sets. We all know we need workforce skill sets, work readiness, soft skills, business skills. Our technical skill sets are not that new either. We kind of all in the trenches. We know what kind of skills are out there. The significance of this report and this survey is to put all of that comprehensively into one place. So we can all be working together with a common goal, to work with TechHire, to work with Lead, URI, CommerceRI, to do all the things that we're trying to do together as an ecosystem, and have one common referral point and set of action items. So that's where our recommendations come forward, and Rhode Island is really the perfect place to do it. We are small, we all know each other, everybody knows everybody in this room, and it's a perfect test bed. Obviously TechHire already recognized that fact. So it's kind of nice that we can be in this room together and move forward together. We have there are 7 recommendations in the report. On a very high level, I'm going to talk through the 7. You can read more about them in the report itself. And the goal of these recommendations is to fill those 2,000 jobs that Jen talked about. It's to fill the jobs that RILMI data says of the top 50 fastest growing jobs, at least 5 of them are in the IT fields. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and we are charged, and we have responsibility as educators and employers in the state to fill them. The recommendations, first one, increase career awareness and engagement. Students don't know what they don't know. A lot of students only know what their parents do for a living. They don't know a lot about IT. Conversely, if parents don't know about IT, when their student comes home and say, I want to be an app developer, I want to be a game designer, we don't want to say, oh, those jobs are not in Rhode Island, those jobs are overseas. Those jobs are in Rhode Island, those jobs are here, they're viable, well-paying jobs with futures in them, right? Sustainable jobs. So just raising awareness and engagement overall is key. Identifying women and minorities who can be role models for students. Not to be stereotypical, but IT industry is very heavily white male dominated. We need to show that there are other people entering this industry and dispel the myth that you can be a woman in the industry. You don't have to be a geek. You don't have to be super smart. All you have to do is have an aptitude to learn and want to learn and do your best. Identify existing programs in the state that are going on and scale those up. How can we make those reach more students? Is it money? Is it resources? Is it employers? How can we scale up existing programs? And making sure we're incorporating both the technical and the workforce readiness skills that are needed into those programs. Recommendation number 2, support and increase engagement in the state's IT education initiatives. There's a huge push right now going on with the current administration. There's PTEC, there's CS for Rhode Island. There is the existing academies and IT programs inside the schools that already exist that we need to build upon. In raising those awareness of those programs and student enrollment in those programs, we are bolstering our future workforce. So that's really critical to what we need to be doing, and making sure that those opportunities are there for students who want to pursue continuing education, but also who want to enter the workforce upon graduation. How do we make diverse career opportunities available to students and to employers' hiring needs? Recommendation number 3, incorporate in-demand technologies into K-12 or K-16 education, and then number 4, incorporate workforce readiness skills. Again, Joe kind of talked about this with New England Tech and with PASA. How do we identify what those skills are? What is it that makes an employee a great worker? It's your technical knowledge, but it's also the desire to always want to learn, right? In IT, you're always learning. If you stop learning for 6 months, you're already outdated. It's, our survey of technologies is only partway complete because there's so many more technologies out there than we can ever capture. So how can we instill in our students the desire to continue to learn and the aptitude to be able to do so? Recommendation number 5. Speaks directly to what Lee and Joe were talking about with CS minors at Rhode Island colleges and universities. It is just another pathway for students to be able to either enter the IT industry or enter business with IT skills. IT impacts the entire industry. It runs across every business and all aspects of businesses. So if you have that background knowledge of IT and tech, you have a leg up against everybody else that you're competing against. How do we build out those programs in Rhode Island, and how do we raise awareness and enrollment in them is our next steps, right? No pressure. Recommendation number 6, training opportunities for non-college bound students and transitioning workers. So this is a lot of the Launch Code, Tech Electives, Tech Course program with the 2 workforce investment boards, with other stuff that Opportunity at Work and Tech Hire are working on. So how do we put people in non-traditional pathways? So people who have non-traditional backgrounds in either education or workforce, or transitioning from other industries that maybe have less opportunities. We get several people in our Tech Course program who worked at a company for 20 years. Companies don't update their technologies as fast as technology changes. So their skills after 20 years might be a little outdated. How can we ramp up their skills and get them to re-enter the workforce? How can we get somebody with a telecom background or somebody with a sales background to enter the IT industry? Those skills, transitioning skills, are extremely valuable and give them a leg up on what needs to happen for us. And number 7 is establish a statewide academic advisory panel. So today is one of the channels of having industry and academia come together to talk, to share knowledge and best practices, and how can we work together better and more comprehensively to meet our needs, both of our needs mutually. Establishing an academic advisory panel that would meet once or twice a year to continue this conversation, to keep everything relevant all the time, and make connections so that when students are going from K to 12, they're seamlessly going into college and university programs, or they're seamlessly going into entry-level jobs or internships. How can we make that pathway smoother for all of us involved and see more success with students, less dropout, more retention overall for Rhode Island and our economy and workforce? Those are our 7 recommendations, again, just at a very high level. Does anybody have any questions?